Something really bad happens to your brain when you watch short form content. And no, I'm not talking about your attention span and your ability to focus. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that scrolling through 5 to 10-second videos is gonna scramble your brain. What I'm about to tell you is way deeper than that and way more sinister. And when I figured this thing out a few years ago, I haven't looked back or watched short form content since, because if you understand this thing, it will petrify you and it will scare you to your core, which should in turn stop you from actually doing the thing. So in order for us to understand how short form content basically destroys your brain, we need to understand a few things about what short form content actually is. When you watch short form content, what happens is you only watch content that goes viral. And what you need to understand is that in order for something to go viral, it has to produce an emotion, because our emotions dictate our attention. And this is really dangerous. If something makes you feel something, then you're likely to pay attention to it. And here's the kicker. When you scroll through short form content, what you're scrolling through is emotions. And every time that you pull that lever, you're invoking a brand new emotion. And so think about this with me for a second here, because, you know, 1 minute you're watching a video of like some child's birthday and then he gets his head put in the cake and it's funny. And then you're scrolling through something about a kid that got over cancer and you feel happy or a little bit inspired. And then you're watching some dude like drive a Ferrari and you feel a bit jealous. Whether it's sadness, anger, anxiety, depression, focus, like inspiration, motivation, determination, like that, loneliness, grief, joy, that there's dozens and dozens and dozens of emotions that your brain has the ability to produce. The problem is with short form content is it's emotional spectacle gone mad, because what you're doing is you're scrolling through all this stuff and you're basically scrolling through emotional states. But the problem with this is it completely fucks your brain and it fucks your emotional intelligence. Have you ever scrolled for a couple of hours before, only afterwards to feel apathetic or depressed or like just completely emotionally haywire? Like you can't really, it's just, you just feel really weird and really strange. What that basically is your brain's almost got like an emotional hangover. Let's say that you scroll through short form content a couple of hours a day. What you're doing is you're scrolling through emotions for a couple of hours a day and you're just artificially stimulating feeling. The reason that so many people these days struggle with depression, anger issues, ODD, ADD, is because people can't control their emotions, because their emotions control them because they produce so many. And that's what you're doing in your brain as you scroll through these things, is you're scrolling, 1 minute, something makes you feel happy, and then it makes you feel sad, then you feel a bit anxious, then you feel a bit lonely, then you feel inspired and motivated, and then you feel a bit angry and joyful, and then confused and envious. And your brain, it can't deal with this level of stimulation. And so what it does is it gives you these weird disorders. And I'll leave you with this in closing. If you have mental health problems, or if you have depression or anxiety, it's worth considering that your emotional state is an output. It is a production. So we can imagine that our emotional state is effectively a reaction, which means that something had to happen for that to happen. You don't just produce emotions for no reason. Now you might do if you've got like chronic schizophrenia, or you've got some real problems, but you probably don't have those issues. And so just think about this for a second. Has it ever occurred to you that the reason that you're so emotionally fucked is because of what you're consuming? It's like, it doesn't take much of a genius. Like go and binge watch like a really, really sad, emotional TV series for a day and see what happens to your brain. Like you can temporarily contract like depression, and this should become as no surprise to you, but the reason short form content is so deadly is because it forces your brain to deal with multiple emotions at once, and it forces your brain to break down these chemicals and deal with different things, and that's how you become ill, and that's how you become sensitive. And you know how easy people are to trigger these days, where it's just like you can almost just poke them in the axiom, and what by axiom I mean like a belief system, like any just insert political statement here, people will just fly off the handle. That's not normal. It's not. And the same thing with how some people these days, like, the slightest, smallest thing can set them off into tears, or the slightest, smallest thing can just give them a panic attack. Like, this is not normal. Like, your brain is pretty emotionally robust, and it's not built to, have these issues. Some people do by default, sure, but you're probably not one of those people. And so if you are sensitive to emotions, and you're highly sensitive to emotional turbulence, all these mental health disorders, then remove short form content, because it's not doing you any good.